Hey there, folks. So, last episode we set up our blueprint function library. We've just added some base classes in here: our add to log, log level mapping, and convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. We tested those and we have those working in the UI. This episode, what I've decided I want to do is add in the character lean or peek, look around corners, things like that. Now, with this, there is one caveat. The first thing, this only works, I'm going to set this up, I should say, so that it only works in first person perspective. Third person perspective, I've found games that let you do that. It lets you cheat and do, well, not cheat, but game the system. It lets you look in angles that just physically shouldn't be possible. So, with that said, though, we are going to get things started here. First thing we need to do is open up our player character header file. And I'm actually going to open up the source file as well, just so it's preloaded. In the player character, we need to, well, add a new input action for this. So I'm just going to copy our previous ones and going to call this the lean action. We need to add a function for this. It's going to be similar to the move and look functions. Not move, lean. Const f input action value. We're going to create that definition. And then just hopping back to the header quick, we need to add a variable to store the information that's saying we're leaning left or right. So I'm just going to visible anywhere, this one right here. Float lean amount equals 0. So first thing we're going to want to do is in our input action, or set up player input component, I should rephrase that statement, we need to bind this. So we're going to go enhanced input component, bind action, as we've done with all our other ones, lean action, e trigger event complete. Oh no, sorry, this is triggered. This, and then reference the ATF player character lean. Alright, now we're going to go down to that action. Where are you in here? You're up the top. Yeah. So, just like with all of our other input actions, we don't want this happening when the player's in the inventory or in a place where we're blocking character input. So we're going to put our block character input in there. But as I mentioned, also, we want this to be tied to first person perspective. So what we're going to do is if we're saying to block the character input, or we're not in first person, we're going to return. Now, we're going to do something similar to what we have here. What we're going to be doing is lean amount I hate how the second you get a typo, it doesn't go equals. Now, we don't need to go all the way down to the same extent we have with our movement or anything like that. We're just going to go value.get float, it's lowercase, sorry. And that's going to set what we need there. And ultimately, at code level, this is all we need to do. So I'm going to build this, launch into the editor, and as soon as that is done, I will be right back. Alright, so we're back in the editor here. So the very first thing we're going to want to do is set up our input actions. Let's get the content browser over here. So the way the project's set up, and I haven't rearranged anything yet, that's still in our third person input actions. Now we want this to be, duplicate our move one, and we're going to call this IA_lean. We're going to open that up, and of course it goes to a different monitor. So we just want this axis 1D float. We don't need this to be bidirectional. It's not like our WASD movement, WASD, where it's forward, left, and right, all being controlled by a single function. So we're going to do that there. We are then, I'm going to move that out of the way, hop back to our mapping context. In here, so I'll need to add that in. Oh, I hate how it does this. Yeah, I know. So I lean. Just going to put that in there. Oh, I hate that. So we need to add 2 keys for that. Well, because the way we set this up, that interact is our F key, we're going to use lean as Q and E. Now we need to add a modifier to one of these, and in this case it's going to be, I believe, E. It's gonna, the way I'm setting this up, it's easy enough to flip if it's wrong, but so for the right lean, however you want to bind it, you want to add a modifier and you want to add the negate. And what that means is that's going to be a negative input. Now these just have a value of, let me just save this quickly so that error stops throwing. These are going to have a value of 0 or 1. There's no linear interpolation here. So what we're going to do now, though, that we've got that, we're going to close out of these quickly. And where'd my content browser go? I closed out of my content browser again. I hate how I do this. Let me just get all my windows back up here. Message log, output log, project settings. There we go. Okay, so back in the content browser, we need to go into our blueprint and we need to actually assign the action. So I lean, not look, compile that and save. And I just am having a moment of doubt that I put lean or look. That is lean. Okay. So now we've done that. The next thing we need to do is actually work in our animation blueprint. I'm going to apologize here. I am not a strong animator. So this is going to look janky. There's going to be people who are better animators out there who can tell you a much more efficient or visual way to do this. But so the way this is set up is the animation blueprint for Quinn is actually derived from the animation blueprint for Manny. So I'm going to open up the Manny one. There is a couple of changes we need to make here, and I'm actually going to rechange our parent or player character to this for myself. So first and foremost, the animation blueprint is just referencing the player character as a character class. We need to fix that and make it reference it as the TF player character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this pin here. I'm going to delete this cast to TF player. Connect these two up. So that's the get owning actor and the event blueprint initialization. What we need to do is go into our variables, select this character one, and the drop down here, just type in TF player. Change that to an object reference. It's going to throw a warning. This could write connectors. Do you want to search all variable character instances, change its type, and recompile? Click change variable type. What it's going to do is it's going to find every place that particular variable is referenced, and both of these are perfectly fine. It's a get and a set, because ultimately the player character does follow its way back up to the base character class. So let's move, I'll get rid of that. So now what we can do is we can just assign this now because it's the right data type. And we're going to compile, and you'll notice the animation blueprint's still working. If it wasn't, your mannequin mesh or your character mesh would go into a default T pose or whatever the unanimated pose is for that model. So there is a couple other things we're going to do. I'm going to do it here. We're going to get a reference to our character. We're going to lean amount, not keen, lean amount, because we expose that to blueprint read only, which is what we want. And we're just going to promote this to a variable. Simple as that. So compile and save that. Now, what I'm going to do, just for the purpose of showing the effect here, I'm going to give this a default value of 1. So this is going to represent our Q key being pressed based on how we set this up. Now what we want to do is go to our anim graph. And this is where, like I said, there's going to be animators who are going to be 100 times better at this than me, but this is how I figured out how to do it. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to create some space just because I haven't collapsed anything yet. We're going to modify bone. Type that in, you're going to get transform, modify bone. This gives you this node. And there's a lot of stuff in here, and most of this you don't need to worry about. Functions, leave. Skeleton to control. Now this is the bone we want to modify. So let's open up our skeleton quickly. And you can see it's using my simplified mesh. So what we want, we have spine, spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, spine 4, and spine 5. So we need to modify 5 different bones, but we're going to clean this up because we're going to duplicate it. What I'm going to do, though, to start with, I'm just going to put this as spine 1. Reselect that. Translation. Well, we're not moving the bone. We don't actually want that pin there. So we're not moving it. We're going to ignore translation. Don't care about this one. And pin, I'm just going to get rid of that exposed pin. No tags, rotation, that is what we want. We want it to add to the existing, because if any of your animations are having you do some weird rotation, you want to just increase it by what we're doing here. Scale, we don't care about, so ignore and expose as pin. Turn that off. And then the last one here is alpha. We're not doing anything with that, at least in this setup. So I'm just going to hide that one. So now we've got that. We're going to duplicate this. That's spine 2, spine 3, spine 4, and spine 5. Let's quickly fix these. So we want spine 2, spine 3, spine 4, and spine 5. No, I changed spine 4 to spine 5 again. Okay, so I'm going to connect all of these up, and I didn't leave myself enough space for this. Now what we want to do is make rotator. I'm going to drag off the first one, make rotator. And connect this up to every single one of these pins, nodes we just... Go away. Yeah, I know there's no debug information. Stop. Okay, I don't know what is going on there. Do I have sticky keys or something? Okay, I'm going to compile and save this. Nothing's actually done. Okay, so now what we want to do is that lean amount. Now, remember, this is a value from 0, well, say it's going to be -1 to +1, defaulting to 0. We don't want these 5 to only move 1 degree each. We need to add a multiplier. And this is where, like I said, it's not going to be smooth. This is a direct transition. There's no linear interpolation. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to add a multiply node. And I'm going to add a variable for this. degrees to lean. And because that was the last variable type, I'm going to compile this so it has the option there. I'm going to set this to 10 to start with. No, that's going to be 50 degrees. I want about a 45, 10, 15, 20, 25, 9. We'll go 8.5. And we're just going to connect this, get degrees to lean in here. Now we're going to hop over to our skeleton. For the observant, you can see it's all on the Y. So we're going to do this. We're going to go connect this to our Y. And this is where we're going to take this pin here, slot, default slot. We're going to drag off the animation pose in here. It's going to create a UE4 convert node. And on the end, we're going to drag it up into the control rig. And again, now if we compile, you can see our character, we've got our controls backwards, but you can see our character is now leaning. So we're going to go default lean amount. 1, we wanted it to be Q. Let's change that to -1. It's leaning the other way, 0. Okay. So we have our lean set up. Let's close out of this and let's quickly fix those left and right values. So default mapping. So we don't want negate on E, we want negate on Q, or left. So let's do that. Compile and save. I'm going to move all of this out of the way. Now if we hit play, we're in third person. You can see we have no lean. Go into V to press V to get into first person. And let's wait for this to lighten up a bit. But you can see, well, we're staying leaning. So I'm going to hit F8 to eject. We stay leaning. What did I screw? Oh, I know what. I remember what I screwed up here. So we're going to stop this. The reason being is go back to our code and our setup player input. So this particular action is only called when the key is pressed down. It is not called the very first frame when the key is pressed or the very last frame. So what we need to do is add the same thing here, but change the triggered to completed. And that happens when the last frame is called. And what that's going to do is when the key is lifted, it's going to do this one more time, and the value should be 0. So I want to see why my left lean wasn't working though. So I'm going to throw a breakpoint on there, hop back in. I'm going to do a quick live compile here. Pull this over. Okay, so we're going to hit play. And again, we'll just quickly show in first person. We're not, this is false, so we need to fall in here. Ignore. We're good. So I'm going to hit continue. And continue because it hit it twice because I released the key. Now let's go into first person and hit Q. Our value is 1. So lean amount is now a -1. Okay, so I'm going to drop that breakpoint. Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm going to slow down our daytime so that we can actually see what's going on here. I'm going to save that actually. We don't need fast days right now. So we're going to hit play. Again, so first person, I'm going to run over to a wall here so we can see. So we're going to hit Q. We can see around a corner. Go to the right. Hit E. Now, is there a key combination for? Oh, there you go. So you can just hop out. Now there is other things, and this is where, like I said, your animators are going to have a lot more input, fine tuning, things like that. Oh, I just did something that caused it to not like me. I think I lost focus on the engine. But you can see there we have our player character is leaning around a corner. Repossess over here and do the same thing. And you can see the characters leaning around the corner to the left. Now, obviously, there is more fine-tuning, like I said, you can do. You could add rotation to the hips. You could add... There's going to be some linear interpolation. I'm not sure how that works in animation. It's something I'm going to dig into. As I said, animation is not my strong suit. But now we've got the basic setup there for peaking. And like I said, the whole reason for not doing this in third person is in third person, when you go to lean, like right here, you'd be able to see there, but you can get yourself into some weird camera angles when you lean, and you can sort of see places you're not meant to and things like that. And I'm already personally not a huge fan of third person. I'm still actually honestly toying with removing it because, again, for that whole reason of you get angles you really shouldn't. Like, you can't see yourself from 10 feet behind you up in the air sort of thing. So personally, I think more than likely being a first person only might be my direction. Still haven't 100% decided. Oh, you're one of the random actors, like that one. Yeah, so... And you see my very lovely apples, or whatever that was meant to be, those little red spheres that I just quickly threw out together in Blender. Yeah, so as you can see, though, before I get sidetracked and just start doing weird things, we have set up our player lean now. It works. This is, again, like I said, this is the early stages of the game. The spit and polish side of things comes much later on, and that'll be things like making this not a janky instant lean. Let's see what our shadow looks like. Yeah, even our shadow looks weird. You can see it's a janky instant lean. But anyways, folks, so this is just a short, quick episode, as I realized I never actually added in the player lean mechanic. Yeah. So I'm going to end this episode here. Oh, actually, briefly want to cover... sorry, let me get back in there. You may notice up here in the top, I've updated the time format. That was just for a short I created. And with that, it probably not how I want to do it in the end. Ultimately, I don't want this at all up here. Again, I want a very minimal, if non-existent HUD. An idea I've got there is something I'll keep to myself for now, just for IP reasons. But yeah, so anyways, with that, I'll just show you quickly what I did to the HUD. So you guys can see, go over to the graph. All I did here is, I put it back to Fahrenheit for the temperature, but for the time, I just broke it out and expanded our format text node to take a year, month, day with the dividers in there. And I added in the text to integer and removed the grouping. And that would be like the after 3 digits, you have a comma. So, but anyways, folks, as I said, that has added in leaning to the player character. So, as always, any comments, questions, suggestions, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you have any requests for tutorials, again, throw them in the comments. I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to do them, but if it's something I feel I could do in like a single episode, maybe 2 episodes, and isn't completely out of my wheelhouse, then I will give it a shot. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.